Hello and thank you for joining us. Onward now. We begin in West Africa, where Guineans headed to the polls on Sunday in a highly anticipated referendum on a new draft constitution. The vote could pave the way for long-delayed elections, but also opens the door for junta leader General Mamadi Doumbouya, who seized power in 2021, to run for president. The opposition has boycotted the vote, calling it undemocratic. Out of Guinea's 14.5 million citizens, about 6.7 million are eligible to vote. At the capital, Conakry, there was a heavy security presence with armored vehicles and checkpoints as polls opened. Though the military initially promised to return to civilian rule by the end of 2024, no election date has been set. The Yes campaign has dominated the street with rallies and posters of the 40-year-old Doumbouya, while the No campaign has mostly played out online, led by the exiled opposition figures, silent by the junta's crackdown on dissent. And for more on this development, I'm joined by Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, David Awurawo. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right. So given that the Guinean junta initially promised to return to civilian rule in 2024, and they're now staging a referendum that could possibly extend Doumbouya's ambitions, how do you think this would affect the legitimacy of the transition process?
Yes, of course, it will affect the legitimacy. It is clearly seen now as a measure that will allow Doumbouya to transit from military governance to civilian rule. And the proposal that has been submitted provides for 7 years of 2 terms maximum. What that means is that Doumbouya might remain the president of Guinea for the next 14 years. And then you add the 4 years he already has. So it follows a familiar pattern among military leaders in Africa. They stage a coup, they come in, they promise democratic transition, they don't keep to the promise. Then they transit to civilian governance. I want to perpetuate themselves in power for as long as possible. So what is happening in Guinea just follows, the pattern that we have seen all over Africa since the 60s and 70s until now.
And this may mean that perhaps the intention was to stay in power even from the beginning. But we've seen the opposition boycotting the referendum that the military government is calling. They have described it as undemocratically. How effective would you say boycott politics really is in Africa? And what strategies do you think the opposition can use to remain politically relevant?
Sometimes it may just be that participating will make sense, because when they don't participate, it doesn't change anything. The government simply goes on to accept the results and then move ahead with what it wants to do, despite boycott. So perhaps if they participate, they might be able to swing things in the other direction and change things for according to what they wish. But again, boycott is good to the extent that it makes the exercise illegitimate and then tries to discredit it, except that it hasn't been effective in changing the way things, eventually turn out.
That's the Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, David Awurawo, talking to us about the Guinean referendum as Guineans plan to move to the polls. Professor, I'm hearing that you're back with us. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Well, like I was saying, the boycott is, it puts some dark spots on the entire process, but it could also be counterproductive because it will make the yes to be easy to attain. And the fact that it is boycotted will not make the government to reject it. And so maybe it would have been better for them to participate. They could swing opinion the other direction and make it impossible for the constitution to be adopted. And that could have been a better approach than boycotting, because historically boycotts haven't changed anything as far as decisions of governments in Africa are concerned.
It's concerned, right. So let's talk about what this really means for people in Guinea at this time. Every military presence was reported during the polls, and in situations like this where security has been used as a means of, tightening control during elections. How do you think citizens themselves can distinguish between genuine protection from the government and intimidation?
That is one thing about African politics. It seems that a large number of the citizens are not well informed about what is happening. And so they simply follow what the government is prescribing.
We seem to have issues connecting with the Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, talking to us about Guinea's controversial constitutional vote. Professor, I hear you're back. Please wrap up your thoughts.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The government, the Doumbouya government still has, support from a large section of the Guinean population, which is surprising because they are not able to see through the fact that when this guy is coming like this, they want to stay for forever. And the longer they stay, the less effective they tend to become. So perhaps they will realize at some point that what they are clapping for does not deserve that clap. But they always realize too late, and that is a tragedy.
All right, we'll just wait out to see what this referendum really means for Guineans as they move to the polls. That's a fine place to leave the conversation for now, Professor. Thank you for talking to us. Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, David Awurawo. Thank you for joining us on The World Now.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's turn our attention to